Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. We've had several conversations already, and one way you can catch up on all that is to follow us across all social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. A lot of things are happening in Nigeria. The elections have come and gone, but court rulings are changing the course of things for some persons. Just before we went on the weekend, we heard of the court ruling setting aside elections for Labour Party members in Abia State and Kano. Of course, remember that Alex Oti won the gubernatorial elections in Abia State. What does this mean for the Labour Party family in the country at this time? This is a conversation and different other things that we'll be looking into this morning. To have this conversation with us this morning is legal luminary and journalist, and himself the coordinator of Akwa Ibom Human Rights Commission, Barrister Clifford Thomas. Good to have you on the show this morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Oyai, and good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Barrister.
It's a real privilege for me to come back on set to actually speak here again. Good morning, viewers. Let's latch on our seatbelt and do the best. Get set for the best.
Yeah, definitely get setting for the best. Just like I tried to, put a little bit of perspective to our focus conversation this morning. We have just 7 days to inauguration across board, except, going further, from the president-elect, we also have governors that will also be sworn in on May 29. And we're having court orders, try to stifle that process for all members of Labour Party in Abia State as we speak, and also in Kano State. What do you make out of this at this point? Now, the reason they are given is that a particular register was not, submitted during the window at which it was supposed to be submitted. Is that enough to say that, look, there should be no inauguration, or the election of these members of that political party should be cancelled?
Well, the structure in the country that has to do with the judiciary is that it is there to interpret whatever laws, as it were, or to give vent or definition to some hazy things that happen within the polity. So it will always be a give and take thing. Rules or rulings will be given, or judgments will be given that will be upstaged by a higher court. And nobody keeps quiet to look at the judgment that is given against him. That of Labour Party, it's rather very sad and unfortunate. Even the PDP people said no. They were not even comfortable. I read from a source that the PDP people are even saying no, Labour Party won, and whatever irregularities, some irregularities are not so bad as to lead to the cancellation of the entire process. That process costs so much in terms of finance, in terms of human capital, in terms of emotions, sentiments, and all of that. For you to just come up in one fell swoop to say you are cancelling it. In Abia, Labour Party won. In Kano, it was the is it NNPP?
Yes, yes,
yes.
So it will look like you are trying to stifle a group that did its best to wrest power off the major players. So, but I think that Labour Party will be in court and NNPP will be in court. And the court is always there to grant justice. So if there was an irregularity that did not affect the entire purport of the election, it will be the upper court.
But wouldn't that have been in the place of INEC to say that you did not, we gave you a stipulated time to submit a register and you did not submit it? Wouldn't that have been under the purview of INEC to determine and not the court? No,
the court has jurisdiction where rules are set and you're supposed to follow the rules. And through a third-party interference, the rules were violated. The court has a right to say, look, you were to have submitted ABC in the checklist, but you did not submit the entire ABC. Whereas you had submitted ABC on time, to the body responsible for the conduct of election or supervision of your primaries, but they did not on their own, out of whatever reason, submit when they were supposed to submit, it wouldn't be your fault, but you are held liable and culpable because you would have been more diligent to also ensure and follow up with that organization to ensure that the group actually submitted it for you. But there's a leeway. There's an opening for reprieve to be gotten.
I think another conversation that a lot of Nigerians are holding at this moment is whether the court is asking that, there should not be an inauguration, and what would happen to the likes of OT and the person that won in NNPP in Kano. What will be their fate, come May 29? We'll just take a very quick a tweet from a lawyer in Ibegefyong and see what he says, and then we'll let you react to that as well.
Okay, this is the tweet from Inibe Efyang, and it says, since the tenure of the incumbent will automatically lapse on the 29th of May, Abia State must have a new governor. A governor-elect has emerged in the person of Alex Oti. The Kano judgment is not executory in this context and cannot be relied upon to truncate Oti's inauguration. Because this also says, of course, that's all for Inibege's tweets.
Reaction.
Yeah, his reaction.
Another one here. It says, as it stands,
Okay.
the judgment delivered by, of course, Honorable Justice Yunusa cannot stop the swearing in of Alex Oti. The judge did not restrain Abia Chief Judge from swearing him in. Conversely, the judge declined the prayer that sought to order INEC to declare the first runner-up winner. So it's over to you now, Barrister Clifford.
Well, every order or judgment of the court must be obeyed. Every order or judgment of the court must be obeyed. But we must, in stricto sensu, position the judgment. What were the prayers? What did the court grant? If the court had granted that the Abia State Chief Judge is restrained from swearing in Oti as governor, then it won't be able to swear him in. But if that prayer was not prayed for or granted, the court is not a Father Christmas to grant you what you have not asked for. So the court only grants on successful argument what you ask for. But where the court does not grant it, you cannot manufacture it from anywhere. I agree with Nibe partially, but I want to let him know and let others know, Nigerians know, that every judgment or order of the court must be obeyed. But again, another leeway to it is immediately that judgment was given to file a notice of appeal and file a stay of execution. And that is as good as not having had the judgment. So Governor Alex Oti will be sworn in. His legal team knows what I am saying. There are ways to actually circumvent the process legally, without necessarily truncating the purport of the judiciary. You are also using that same judiciary to push for something. So they file a notice of appeal in Kano and file a stay of execution. Also in Kano, hoping to file same in the Court of Appeal, possibly in Abuja. But they can also go to court and make their prayers. Beyond those two courts, they can make their prayers elsewhere. So when a high court, whether federal or state, gives judgment, and another high court of coordinate jurisdiction gives judgment to counter it, the only thing left is that you will state the case at the Court of Appeal. And while that process is on, the swearing in takes place. So I see Alex Oti sworn in as governor of Abia State. And I see the NNPP governorship candidates in Kano, sworn in also as governor of Kano State.
Well, we'll continue on the proceedings in
Yes.
court, definitely.
While we even go beyond just Alex Oti for the gubernatorial seat in Abia State, that particular judgment also covers for Labour Party flag bearers in like different other positions. So because this just concluded round of election, we saw Labour Party foist a lot of members into the House of Reps, into the Senate, as it were. This, the same interpretation that you've given now for Alex Oti is
the same principle applies to all of them. That one principle applies to all of them. So I see all of them. They'll be sworn. Those to the House of Assembly, National Assembly, will be sworn in on the 2nd of June, and those who have gone to the governor will be sworn in on May 29. 7 more days. Within these 7 days. In fact, let me say within these 5 days left, so much will happen.
Okay, I know that, another angle that some Nigerians are taking the interpretation of the court proceedings as against Alex Oti and all members of Labour Party in Abia State, and of course the NNPP candidates, is that the swiftness and the hastiness in which the court decided the case of Alex Oti. Does that mean that the judiciary can actually stand up to its duty? But when we link it up with the Presidential Election Tribunal, there seems to be some kind of drag.
We have 180 days for you to commence and conclude all election petitions. And that of the presidential elections were submitted, I think, in early March. And between early March and sometime on the 12th of May, they were taking time to study, to read. But I still feel that it was too long a time, because you do adjournment. And now Atiku is praying and asking the court, grant media permission to televise this in live. And APC people are saying, no, we don't want the media to televise. The question is why? But that to me is another distraction, because the time that the court would have used in looking at the substantive matter, the court is using it to look at ephemeral matters. And I think that we are trying to buy time, waste time, drag.
And Peter Obi is on one corner saying that he needs 7 weeks to bring his witnesses.
All of his witnesses.
So is that not also part of the wasting of time?
No, he will bring the ones he has to start with first. So if it doesn't mean, to my mind, that Peter Obi is saying, give us up to the 7th week for us to bring witnesses. But the witnesses that are available, they will start with them, with those witnesses. The ones that are not available, they are still doing everything possible to get them. That is how the court works. You must try to bring your witnesses. Where you don't bring your witnesses, and that witness deposed to a witness statement on oath or an affidavit, that means the witness statement of oath will be discountenanced.
Okay, I think something I'd like for us to also look at in the middle of all of this is what the impact of judgments like this will mean on the polity of the country, especially because we have experienced a shift with regards to how the politics and the democracy of Nigeria is being played, especially as a result of the last concluded election. With judgments like this, it feels like it is playing on the desire of the people, because part of the conversation with this judgment is that it can go wrong in any way. Let's not forget the sentiments that surrounded the announcement of Alex Oti as the the winner of the gubernatorial elections in Abia State. So weighing this with security and the desire of the people, where do you think these kinds of judgments places Nigeria and Nigerians in the face of our real-time democracy?
We mustn't look at the judgment in isolation of our past experiences. The misadventure of the military into Nigeria's polity actually denied us the privilege of making mistakes and correcting those mistakes. Now we are beginning to make those mistakes we would have done several years ago and correcting them. The judiciary must advise itself. The judges must advise themselves. And I think the Chief Judge of Nigeria, Justice of Nigeria, should be able to bring out a practice direction which advises judicial officers not to give judgments that are seen to be very seen to be very sentimental. Judgments are in stricto sensu law abiding. They follow the law, the rule of law. Now, there are some judgments you are not required to give. When you notice that you are on a coordinate pedestal, I mean, I'm a high court, you are a high court, you are a high court, and whatever judgment I give, you have the authority to also give a counter judgment, which is judicial rascality. Because if you are not satisfied with my judgment, go upstairs, go to the Court of Appeal, go to the court that has appellate jurisdiction from my court, and then argue your case out. But if you feel, we have had situations in this country where 3 different courts gave 3 different opinions on one matter with the same parties. Judicial rascality. Just like we have abuse of court processes by lawyers, the court processes may also be further abused by judges. But we are saying let the CJN give practice direction to help us and say, please, in matters of this nature, don't entertain them. Recuse yourself. Say you don't have jurisdiction. Call on the CJN or call on the court that has jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction on it. Let us state the case. Where I give a decision, you also have coordinate jurisdiction with my court. You give a conflicting jurisdiction, a conflicting decision against my own. What the parties could do is to state the case, take the case to the Court of Appeal, and then seek the opinion of the Court of Appeal as to who is correct, who is right. So in this instance, I think we're making the mistakes we would have done 40 years ago.
And you think that's okay at this time?
No, some judgments could actually unsettle the socio-cultural milieu of the people. So the judges must also look at the society in giving their judgment. Yes, the laws are there, and that is why they have researchers. Unfortunately, the monies are not there for them to pay their researchers. You pay researchers, you do peer review. You meet fellow judges to review this case. When things like this happen, what do we do? When instances of this nature occur, what do we do? They do peer review. You may not know, but they meet at that level to peer review themselves. So, but judgment, speaking now as a person, judgments that attack or appear to attack the fabric of the culture of the people and the sentiments which was raised and was settled, had been settled, they are not very good judgments.
I think with
I'm speaking as a person, not as a lawyer now.
Yes, with all of the conflicting judgments we've had, especially with election cases, it has given Nigerians a lot of belief that, you know, the judiciary is more like influenced by some political powers and political actors. And
No, I wouldn't think so. Everybody is influenced. Even this television station is influenced. Because we live in the midst of other persons. The judges, they buy food from the market. The judges, they hear opinions. They hear stories. They listen to the public. They are molded. In fact, they listen to shapers of public opinion. And they ask questions. And then they look at their books. They look at the facts before them. If this happens, it will put fire in the society. There will be crisis, there will be problem. And for you to work as a judicial officer, your judgment must not put trouble in the society. So we are saying, let us also advise ourselves, generally, not to encourage the judiciary to appear influenced. But everybody is influenced. Whether you like it or not, you are influenced. But I want to subscribe to the fact that the judiciary is...
Everybody is influenced. So what is the judiciary being influenced by?
No, I am saying I want to subscribe to the fact that the judiciary is not influenced by politicians or money.
Anyways, I would have loved to take you up on
no,
that.
There are lots of props. There are a lot of props. against which checks the judiciary. Some you know, some you don't know. Some are very, even the judiciary checks itself
Okay.
to safeguard against undue influence.
I think we just lay that to rest now and look at a very important and interesting conversation here on the front page of the Punch newspaper. This has to do with the National Assembly leadership now, talking about the Senate. We see here that Akpabio, who is also an aspirant for the 10th president of the Senate, is saying, "Don't judge me based on performance as minister." And it takes me back to, you know, the whole NDDC issue and the whole money corruption issue that surrounded the NDDC at a time, which he said he was going to mention names at some point, but we never saw those names come forth. And here he is now saying, "Don't judge me based on performances as minister." Obviously, we know that if he comes out to make this kind of statement, there's been some kind of fire, you know, as to what were your performance, you know, during your role as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Well, everything, anytime the name NDDC comes up, corruption is the first thing that comes to your mind. It's more like a place where virtually everybody from every part of the country, they feed from. The NDDC is a golden pot where people dip their hands and take things. But Akpabio was not Minister of the Niger Delta Development Commission. He was Minister of the Niger Delta, which had supervisory authority over the NDDC.
Exactly.
And then he came up with a very unpopular policy. Unpopular with the elite and persons who made so much money from the NDDC. And these are persons who have very strong influence, who can actually influence the election of who becomes Senate President. It was when he declared the audit, that he wanted to do forensic audit of the NDDC, that we got to know that some persons were like Senator James Manager was making 1 billion naira, was it every month, from the NDDC for doing virtually nothing. And a couple of persons who had collected contracts were forced to return back there because it was very, with the support of his Mr. President, he was bent on actually making people suffer consequences for their action. So a lot of contractors went on site and they had eaten the money, but had to mobilize money from anywhere they could to actually see how to execute the contract. Some who had done very shoddy jobs had to go back and do proper jobs. So they are not happy. I don't expect them to be happy with Godswill Akpabio. And I'm very sure that other aspirants are taking undue advantage of this. So, like, I agree with you that there couldn't be fire without smoke. So something must have forced him to say that. But again, for Akpabio to come out to say that, is he afraid that he failed?
Okay, so he's also saying that he should rather be judged by his record as a lawyer of 36 years and commissioner for 6 years and a governor for 8 years.
No, we
rather than judge him on his precedence as a minister for Niger
We
Delta.
will use all his record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All his record. None will be exempted. All his record. All his record in public office. We're not going to even judge him on the basis of being a lawyer because we're talking about a public office and you had been involved in public office. How did you perform? 6 years as commissioner, 8 years as governor. Your record as Senate Minority Leader, your record as a Minister of the Niger Delta. We'll use all those records. You should not tell us what to use to assess him. Nigerians will use all the records to assess him. And I wish him the best. If his records are okay, then he should be good enough to be
But
Senate
there's
President.
something you said, and I want to take you on that. Why is he even afraid, you know, that people are judging him based on his performance as the Minister of Niger Delta? Why is he scared?
I am very sure that his fear is that they want to judge him on the basis of the forensic audit, but that they should include his other records. That's what I think, to my mind, as a person. Because if you isolate his days, his tenure as Minister of the Niger Delta, and you have very powerful forces who actually sponsored some persons to the Senate, to the National Assembly, then they might want to use those persons as as third-party influence against his election as Senate President. If I were him, I shouldn't express fear. I will tell them, I'm very happy that you are using the whole of this record. But beyond that, include this. And I want to think he may not have done well in the eyes of some of those persons who felt he deprived them of their illegitimate means of income. But to the common people, how did he fare? He did well.
Just an aside, I'm still leaning on Godswill Akpabio as Minister of the Niger Delta, but then looking into the NDDC, their budget was passed last week, and Barrister Clifford, it is exorbitant. When you see some of the monies voted and what they were voted for, over how many billion naira for the aids of directors at the NDDC in billions of naira. Is there no way that, you know, that particular agency can be reviewed, and what their roles are in the Niger Delta? Because, like you know, you insinuated it's more like a conduit pipe to just, you know, waste taxpayers' money.
Well, taxpayers are not paying money there. That's what we must admit. What we're doing is just getting allocations and squandering the allocations. We squander what comes to the NDDC. But if you do a comparative analysis with the NNPC, you will think that the NDDC is an organization made up of saints. Saints. Most agencies in Nigeria, their corruption quotient is ingredients. But that of the NDDC, I agree with you that the money is wasted on aid. Have you even looked at the entertainment allowance, the budget for entertainment, including monies you use to maintain your mistresses, put them in hotels, feed them, buy cars for them, send them on trips and all of that? You notice that the particular amount in terms of percentage that goes for real projects that affect the lives of the people is less than 25%. It's less than 25%. And because of this, the wastages have increased the poverty level in the Niger Delta region. It has also increased the level of dissatisfaction of the youth on what is happening. That's why the youth have gone ahead to break the pipelines, remove crude oil, which is a very expensive business. They are trying to even eke out a living for themselves by refining crude in a very crude manner, which actually also spoils or destroys the environment, destroys the water we drink, destroys the air, destroys our rivers, our lakes, our streams. It is because of the insensitivity of those who actually operate the NDDC that all these things happen. But again, it starts from the top. It starts from the federal government, where you appoint people into places, and before you even appoint those people, you make them pay as much as R1 billion. That is what is happening. Pay 200 million naira, 500 million naira as bribe before they are even appointed. Once they are appointed, they want to go out there and recoup those monies, to pay back from whatever source they got those monies from.
So you begin to ask questions like, where does the principle of the federal character principle, where does it lie in terms of giving appointments to people? Where does the place of merit lie when people are buying positions with such exorbitant prices?
We have patronage for political offices. In 1886, the Berlin Conference partitioned Africa. That is the same principle we are using here. The juicy positions in this country have been partitioned to some ethno-religious groups. That's one. Number two, to the highest bidder. Three, to political patronages of political boys. You know, this is the era of boys. Even Mr. President-elect is a city boy. And he called our governor the boy, that boy, the other day. It's an era of boys. And our incoming governor is a golden boy. So this is an era of boys. So it means that boys must become men, and there's room for improvement. That's my interpretation of all these boys' philosophy. Now, the principle of partitioning our scarce resources and not looking at merit. Even the man who is meritorious, who has merit, will be made to compromise in one or two styles, because you must have a bad dossier to be appointed into positions in Nigeria. So that when you want to become righteous, they will show you your bad dossier and say, look, you're bad. You're not more righteous than us. So if you don't do what we want you to do, we tell the whole world. So it's a principle of blackmail. That's what is encouraging and promoting the allocation of scarce resources and positions in Nigeria. Merit has been thrown off board.
Merit is more like just non-existent. Like you said, the people that have just a little bit of merit, they look for, you know, some form of stain. But just before we wrap up this conversation this morning, something really big is happening in the country today. We've been talking about fuel subsidy, the fact that we don't have refineries and all of that. Aliko Dangote, who's Africa's richest man, took the task, the bull by the horn, and he has built one for us. I see you shake your head. I don't know if you're for or against that particular dream, but that refinery is going to be commissioned today, and he hopes to be churning out 650,000 barrels per day of crude product.
And employing over 100,000 people. Yeah.
Where will the crude oil come from?
He says he's going to be negotiating, getting crude from three different countries, African countries.
NNPC for Nigeria is giving him 350,000 per day.
From where?
The big question.
Look, I am not particularly very happy or overexcited over the Aliko Dangote refinery, because in a country like the US or in countries in Europe, a man who is richer and stronger than the country, they divide. This antitrust now. They divide. Look at what happened to Microsoft. They had to split it. You can't monopolize salt, monopolize sugar, monopolize flour, monopolize everything, including the oil. What happened to the boys who were doing Popo fire at in River State or Bayelsa? Is there no way we could have helped these boys to refine their method and tell them, okay, group together, we give you modular refinery license? Must we give everything to Aliko Dangote? And I'm saying this with all amount of sincerity. We are not helping this country.
But again, they will say
that cement, a bag of cement in Ghana, I think Ivory Coast, was sold at about 1.8 from what we heard, and was sold here at 5,000 naira. Are you not rather promoting more corruption and putting more monies in the hands of only one man against every other person? Are you telling me that we don't have the capacity to refine crude oil in smaller quantities? We have marginal oil fields. Akwa Ibom has marginal oil fields.
The issue of bringing up modular refineries has been like a major conversation for the longest of time. But government does not want to build modular refineries. Even the 1.5, I think, $1 billion that was supposed to be sunk into, is it Port Harcourt refinery now? We've not heard the last of it.
We don't need, they should sell off those.
And then NNPC seems to also be monopolizing these things. And if Aliko Dangote comes up as a private individual to break that monopoly, you don't think it is good enough?
You have destroyed, how many refineries do we have? 4 major refineries
that are not working.
No, 4 major refineries in this country, which are not working. I agree with you, but they are spending trillions of naira every year on them.
To revamp?
No, not to revamp. They are not even doing turnaround maintenance. Just to maintain the moribund staff who are there. And the staff who are there, they employ them without publicity, without announcement. They just employ them from the backyard. And how much are they paid? Some are paid more than 5 million naira. And what are the packs they go home with? The packs they go home with alone for 1 year is more than 15 years salary you earn here. And we are promoting corruption through nepotism, through favoritism, through tribalism. And you are coming to tell me that Aliko Dangote, yes, he did a good job. He's a private businessman. The purpose of every business is to make profit, not to offer service.
Exactly.
Not to offer welfare. The service a businessman offers you is to his advantage to make profit. But the one that would have been done, assuming we have like 20 modular refineries across Nigeria, I'm very sure there won't be need for Aliko Dangote's refinery.
I want to believe that as well, but it's been quite.
I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to hear what I'm saying.
No, but that's the truth. If we had modular refineries, that has been like the issue, or like Nigerians asking for
employ more than 300,000 people, upstream and downstream.
So I think something that Barrister Clifford is calling our attention to, like you asked the question earlier, is this going to make, you know, every other sector that should be building up towards this to relax?
Aliko Dangote will fix the price for everything. And I tell you the truth, once they claim, you know, they've removed a lot of oil subsidy over time, this administration.
Yes.
And I don't know whether they are deceiving us or how the thing comes up again. And they say they want to remove oil subsidy. They want to remove subsidy. Aliko Dangote will not subsidize. He will make his full profit, but products will be available. And that is the same product that would have been available if the government allowed. Okay, what's happening to the Bom Deep Sea?
I think that availability is one challenge that we have had as a country. And
it is sabotage. It is sabotage not to make products available for Nigerians to suffer, for us to now see the need why only one person must have a functional refinery and put all of us as slaves.
All right, well, thank you very much.
This,
yes, definitely.
An alarm here is that this refinery is not a service option. It is more of a profiteering venture.
But I said this earlier on that, you know, private individuals would always want to do things to, you know, get profit from it.
The same license they gave to Aliko Dangote, why didn't they not give to those who were ready to refine oil here? And do you know that stealing bunkering is a very serious business?
All right. Thank you so much. I think our time is up at this moment, but I want to say a very big thank you to you, Barrister Clifford Thomas, for being on the show this morning. Quite interesting, engaging conversations that we've had so far. But this is the much we can take on the show this morning. We'll definitely see you again tomorrow. But Isaac and Blyden Ukem will be up next for Sports Central at this moment.
My name is Uyaya Nekan, and this is where we draw the curtains for today. Let's do this again tomorrow. Big thank you to everyone who's been a part of the show today. Bye-bye from all of us on Rise and Shine.